It's about what?
I'm sad for those who don't feel that they are loved in order to work in this life.
Was the iconic Mr. Rogers really the kind one we all revered? Or is there another side to his story? He made generations of us feel heard, seen, and safe. But beyond that soothing voice, even Fred Rogers had a side that the cameras never showed. But before he passed away, Rogers' wife had an ugly secret to share. And what she revealed isn't surprising, it's personal. The reality could quite possibly alter the way you recall America's favorite neighbor for good. What if the greatest kids program in the history of television didn't have bright graphics or booming characters, but the power of one guy talking to the very soul of you? Let's take a stroll down that neighborhood and see about the quiet revolution Fred initiated with a humble show that made an enormous impact. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. The series that transformed childhood Fred Rogers never had any desire to be a television star. What he cared about more than anything else was to meet kids where they were, exactly in the middle of their big feelings, little questions, and expanding hearts. And he did all this with a soothing voice, reflective eyes, and a neighborhood that transformed lives. When Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood made its debut on PBS in 1968, it did not arrive with flashing lights, wacky characters, and quick-moving stories. It was peaceful, not bland. Fred Rogers would come in through the door, hang up his coat, slip into that beloved cardigan, trade his shoes for sneakers, and begin singing, "Won't you be my neighbor?" It was more like visiting with a good friend than watching a television show. But that was the idea. Fred constructed the show as an emotional classroom. While other shows were instructing numbers and the alphabet, Fred was instructing children to walk through feelings, fear, anger, sadness, joy, providing them with a vocabulary for what was happening inside. The program addressed issues such as divorce, death, race, and disability without ever condescending to its viewer. It was slow television, yes, but fiercely purposeful. The episodes also ventured into the fanciful neighborhood of make-believe, where puppets such as King Friday the 13th, Daniel Tiger, and Lady Elaine Fairchild acted out small dramas that mirrored actual scenarios. Fred even voiced many of the important puppets himself, each mirroring a part of his personality. In 31 seasons, from 1968 until 2001, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood broadcast 895 episodes. That's not only remarkable, it's unprecedented for a program with so specific a purpose. But its longevity had nothing to do with flash. It had everything to do with heart. Fred understood that children didn't require more noise. They required quiet. They required honesty. And they wanted someone who did not treat their issues like they were just kid stuff. Every episode was a tiny time capsule of comfort. No laugh track, no blaring sound effects, no commercials. Just Fred talking to the camera like he was talking directly to you. And for many, many viewers, particularly those growing up in troubled homes or who felt like they didn't quite fit in, that 30 minutes with Mr. Rogers was the most secure part of the day. Although the show had a gentle tone, the guest roster at times made a little racket. Fred welcomed individuals from every aspect of life. Artists, musicians, scientists, and even pets to come and sit down and chat, teach, or it could just be. Individuals, such as Yo-Yo Ma, who demonstrated children how music could convey words that feelings wouldn't. Even Julia Child, who shared her charm and passion for cooking with Fred's Kitchen. LeVar Burton, another literacy enthusiast from Reading Rainbow, was a guest as well. David Copperfield, a bit of magic added to the neighborhood. Tony Bennett, sharing his smooth singing and authentic warmth. And even Coco the gorilla, employing sign language to speak with Fred, an unforgettable moment of contact that left television watchers agog. Each visitor, whether known or unknown, was respected and dignified in the same way that Fred treated his audiences. That was the magic. Everyone counted. The television industry took note. Throughout the years, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood received ample accolades, such as 4 Daytime Emmy Awards, which recognized its excellence in children's television. 55 Emmy nominations, reflecting how steadily and powerfully the show continued. The Cine Golden Eagle Award for quality educational material, such as Let's Talk About Going to the Doctor. And Fred was awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Daytime Emmys in 1997. In his acceptance speech, he urged the audience to take 10 seconds of silence to reflect on the people who made them the individuals they are today. The whole room was silent. It wasn't about the awards, though. For Fred, the reward was seeing children feel loved and appreciated. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood continued even after the show ended in 2001 in the hearts of the viewers. Thanks to YouTube and streaming services, subsequent generations of children continue to find his soothing voice, his soft wisdom, and his cardigan-covered presence. In programs like Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, created by Fred Rogers Productions, keep his work going with new tales and new characters, constructed from the same soil of emotional integrity and compassion. Fred once said, "The greatest gift you ever give is your honest self." That's exactly what he gave for over 3 decades. And in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, that truth never goes out of style. To really understand Fred Rogers, you have to meet the woman who stood beside him through it all. Their story is quite surprising. Who is Joan Rogers? Before the name, Mrs. Fred Rogers, forever who got into the news, Joan Bird was penning her own tale, and it was no ordinary one. Joan was born in 1928 in Jacksonville, Florida. She was raised by parents who cherished curiosity, music, and meaningful discourse. They were not flashy or rich, but were thoughtful and resolute. Her dad was a traveling salesman, and her mom, a stay-at-home mother who at times kept the house going on love and order. Early in life, Joan learned to speak up when necessary and to listen even more. Music became a full-time passion for Joanne, not just a hobby. Before she was even in grade school, she was already causing a stir as a child piano prodigy. She played not to impress, but because it made her come alive. Classical music, jazz, folk songs, she did them all. And when she secured a place at Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida, it was evident that she wasn't just pursuing a dream, she was forging a trail. At Rollins, Joan studied music performance and soon impressed not just with technical proficiency, but with the soul she invested in each composition. Her teachers noticed. So did her peers. Whether she was playing alone or backing up others, she possessed an innate talent to touch and draw others in with notes that somehow conveyed more than any words ever could. But Joanne was not the type of person to require a spotlight. She was never in pursuit of fame. More important to her were people, meaningful friendships, candid dialogue, a sense of community. She had the ability to brighten a room with her laugh, but she also knew when to move in and ask the sort of questions that caused you to hesitate. She went on to Florida State University after college and eventually found herself in Pittsburgh attending Carnegie Tech, now Carnegie Mellon, where she honed her craft further and challenged herself artistically. This period of her life was about artistic development as a musician, sure, but also as a woman finding out who she was going to be in the world. She was also a teacher, paying back. During the 1950s, she was an instructor at Chatham College's Music Preparatory School, teaching and mentoring young pupils. In the early 1970s, she taught for 4 years at Carlow College. In addition to teaching, Joanne was a concert pianist of distinction. She played in a piano duo with her dear friend Janine Morrison, with whom she made 2 albums, Duo Piano Favorites and a Virtuoso Duo Piano Showcase. Even then, Joanne was not fitting into a box. She was not looking to be someone's wife, someone's assistant. She had a dream for her life of music, autonomy, and the ability to be seen in full color. Wherever it was before the piano or over coffee at a friend's house, she infused heart, humor, and an ironclad sense of peace. Joanne's artistic endeavors were later in life acknowledged. In 2019, Duquesne University gave her an honorary degree for her lifelong commitment to music and education. So when her life finally intersected with that of someone who had that same level of character and imagination, it wasn't an accident. It was 2 lives intersecting at the perfect moment. The love story behind the legend, it's simple to glance at a marriage spanning decades and just notice the appearance. A couple in coordinated outfits and photographs, a house they share, a smile in public. But with Fred and Joan Rogers, the tale behind the scenes that made their romance extraordinary. Their romance didn't scream, It began in the whispers of a college music auditorium in Florida. Fred and Joanne met for the first time at Rollins College in the late 1940s. Both music majors, both intensely committed to their art, and both unaware, soon to become the most significant person in each other's lives. Joanne wasn't easily impressed. She had been raised with music in her blood and an intelligent mind that pierced through superficiality. What struck her was not Fred's charisma or potential for greatness. It was how he listened, actually listened, and how he treated others with a gentleness that seemed to be a rarity, even back then. Their relationship developed in practice rooms, piano labs, and through shared recitals. They weren't a candlelit couple composed of grand flourishes. They constructed much stronger, a relationship based on shared rhythm, intellectual rapport, and emotional security. They shared the same musical language, sure, but more significantly, they listened to each other in a manner that few others were able to do. Post-college life didn't quite lay down the red carpet for their partnership. Fred went to New York to begin working for NBC, while Joanne remained in Florida. You'd think long-distance relationships are tough today, but back then, there were no texts, no FaceTime calls, just pen, paper, and a lot of patience. And yet, the letters never stopped. Each envelope carried not only words but layers of unspoken care, longing, and deepening trust. Then came the letter. Fred's proposal. Tucked between updates and affection was the question that would shape both their lives. Joanne was so flustered, she rushed into a phone booth to accept, so quickly, in fact, that she almost dropped the letter along the way. She guarded it carefully after that, and for good reason. That letter was the beginning of something solid. They were married in 1952 and started what would become more than 50 years of marriage. But theirs was not the sort of union that sat pretty on mantelpiece. It was live, messy, humorous, real. Music was still at the center of their relationship.